Joining me today and hopefully not getting traded anytime soon or cutting me as a GM, Glenn Willis. Glenn, welcome back. You're a regular now, so that's as nice as I'm going to get. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Just trying to keep up with all this craziness happening across the entire league going on right now. How are you doing?
You know, I don't know, man. I thought the craziest thing that I saw was the Boston trade going on, swapping the first pick for the third pick. I thought Fultz for sure was going to Boston. Does this mean the process is over now?
Well, since they sent that Lakers pick over, I know there's some protection there, but
Oh yeah,
it does seem like the Sixers have cashed in. That's how it seems to me.
yeah. That's another thing that happened. The Lakers made a huge trade. I'm not sure what to make of that. Who won and who lost? What the Nets got a young player. Granted, they took on some contracts and some contracts and some contracts. They got a young player, possibly the most talented young player they've had in, well, probably since Darren Williams. So that is a plus. And Lakers freed up some cap space for all these sudden, as you add to the craziness, Paul George rumors, or for all we know, LeBron could be going there in 2018. Did you happen to read about his subtweet, or rather direct tweet about David Griffin?
Yeah, I did. I just think that Dan Gilbert, the Cavs owner, is insane. I mean, he's already been through this once and was very, very fortunate that LeBron felt like he could go back. So I just don't understand what Dan Gilbert's doing right now. You get you have one of the two greatest players of all time,
Yeah.
and you take any risk at all with that. That is just crazy to me.
Oh my goodness. Like Dan Gilbert's probably the most. I don't want to sound mean. I just can't think of anything like the worst own. Like he's a very bad owner for this. Like you have LeBron originally leaving, then you have the fact that he kind of basically he was immature enough to write that letter about LeBron after he left for Miami. I know you remember that because that was a big thing. He took it that was on the website for years. Left, got multiple number one picks, multiple top three picks. Got LeBron. He's like the luckiest person alive, but yet it's like he's trying to lose. He's trying to go full major league. That's what's happening right now.
Yeah, I my opinion is there's one person in the world that can make James Dolan look like not a horrible owner, and that's Dan Gilbert.
Yeah, like we make fun of James Dolan for a lot of his stuff. Like, now, granted, James Dolan has done a lot of laughably bad things. But
Yes.
but Dan Gilbert, man, I don't know what to think. But here we are. So you want to get into today's pod? You ready for it? I for actual Hawks talk, and not the rest of the NBA.
Yeah, just to close out on those both of those trades for Boston and LA, I don't think either of them are done. I think Boston's still looking to acquire uh, either Butler or George potentially at this point in time, since it looks like they're kind of going in on their current team a little bit. I mean, I know they still have a lot of assets out there, but then I don't think Brooke Lopez in LA makes any sense for that roster at all. So I gotta wonder
Nope.
if the Lakers are looking to move him. So I don't. I think that if we spent like 20 or 30 minutes going in on that, tomorrow would be like throwaway material. So I think it's smart to just keep it short and
Yeah.
head over to Hawks territory and talk about that.
Yeah. They get a rental of Brooke, and I trying to understand what Ainge is doing, stacking assets. I don't know. Anywho, let's get into it. So, guys, for today's show, it's going to be our pre-draft show. So, we're going to be talking about some draft picks upcoming for your, or well, my Atlanta Hawks too. Forget you guys, mine. Not kidding. So, I asked Glenn here to put together a list of top 3 draft profiles. He's been writing some great profiles on peachtreehoops.com. Check them out if you haven't. I don't know what's wrong with you. Glenn, you've been doing the Lord's work over there, and I'm glad that you could bring some of your material over for me. So let's go ahead and get started. Who are your top 3 guys? Tell me their strengths, weaknesses, fit, shoe size. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Okay, so it's been difficult to narrow it down to 3. People who follow closely Peachtree Hoops know I've been kind of talking up Justin Patton a bit, but I actually have 3 guys that I would put ahead of him as prospects for the number 19 pick. The first one is Juwan Evans, the point guard from Oklahoma State. I'm not sure if he'll be there at 19, even though I think Draft Express still has him in the, like late 30s, which that just doesn't make any sense to me. But he's excellent at creating offense for himself and others. He's coming out as a junior. Earlier in his career at Oklahoma State, he was a little bit more of a score first point guard. He shot like 47.5% from 3. His freshman year never replicated that but that's probably because he was just working to further develop his game and become a more robust offensive player. And in time, he became a really good facilitator. He had 8.5 assists per 40 minutes last year, and only Lonzo Ball and um, a relatively unknown point guard. I think at Belmont were the only guys that had a better rate of assists per 40 minutes. So very, very productive offensive player. He might be the best pick and roll point guard to come out of the draft in the last 5 years or so. So he'd fit really well into what the Hawks do. They create almost every offensive possession, or 80% offensive possessions with the high screen and roll action. He gets to the free throw line a lot as well. So the easy points there. More on the side of what you don't see in him right now. He's not ready to shoot from the NBA 3-point line yet, but there's no reason to think that that won't come along. The shot looks fine. He's just not strong enough to put it up from that deep quite yet. He's a little bit undersized, or probably more than a little bit undersized. He's moderately undersized, but that doesn't affect him too much on the offensive end of the court. He does deal with kind of shorter passing lanes at times as a result of him not having a lot of length, but it does impact him a little bit more so on defense. He plays really hard defensively and then plays with a really good defensive IQ. He will need to cut down on his tendency to kind of gamble for steals a little bit. I like Malcolm Delaney to bounce back in his second season with the Hawks.
Oh,
But for me, if Evans is available at 19, I think he's just too good of a basketball player to pass at that pick. So that's my first guy. What do you think?
oh man. Uh, I didn't expect a. You said he could play point. He's a point guard, right?
He's a pure point guard. He's a
Pure
real point
point
guard.
guard.
Yep.
I wasn't expecting a point guard. You threw the curveball at me. That's now. You say you expect Malcolm Delaney to bounce back, though. Malcolm Delaney, he was a rookie. Do you think Malcolm could improve next season, or are you just all in on getting young players?
Well,
Based on this?
I think Malcolm couldn't play worse in terms, especially in terms of his shooting. He actually was pretty good on defense last year. I think he's just a better shooter than he demonstrated, and that's going to be kind of a pretty easy mark for him to improve upon from last year. But the Hawks do only have him under contract for 1 more year, so it's not like they have him for 3 or 4 years. But for me, I want the Hawks' number one priority in this draft and other transactions they're looking at, because they have a ton of free agents, potential free agents to deal with in July. They just don't they just don't have enough offensive creators. And this guy is Juwan Evans is a really special at creating good shots for himself and good shots for his teammates. And he's just, I think, to me, too talented of a player that if you have a chance to take a guy that good at the 19th pick,
Yeah,
almost regardless of position, I just think you have to give it some serious thought.
that's also a good asset. Goes back to what make the Hawks good: two competent point guards.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So with this signing, does that mean anything for Dennis? Do I got to be worried about Dennis leaving if I see that?
I don't think so. I think it would be kind of there could I think that I don't know why I keep hearing people say Evans is going to be a really good backup point guard. In my mind, he's going to be a starting point guard. Uh, Year two, year three, somewhere around there. It might be if they were to select Evans at 19, it might be setting back up where they had to make a decision between Jeff and Dennis when Jeff was 1 year from free agency. But that would be uh, three 3 years from now. So it wouldn't create any sort of kind of complication at all for the next 3 years. And 3 years is a long time in the NBA.
True. All right.
Ready for
Well,
my second one or no?
let's bring on number two.
Okay, so my second one is DJ Wilson, and I'm not saying this just to make Mr. Brad Rowland happy, the Michigan guy, but he would be another great option for the Hawks. Like I said earlier, I had been leaning towards Justin Patton until just very recently, and I wouldn't mind at all if they took Patton in the 19th pick, but the Hawks have really shown no interest. I don't have any indication they've even worked out Patton. Patton is very raw, but a ton of upside. But Wilson would be a much more reliable pick for me, and a person could make the case that Wilson is as good right now than Patton might ever be. He has legitimate size to play at the center position,
Okay.
but he
Uh,
has this.
real,
Yes.
real quick, just so the listeners know. So DJ Wilson, he is the center, right?
Well, he played mostly power forward at Michigan,
Okay.
but he has NBA center size. I mean, he's 6'8" plus, which is actually like Dwight's not even 6'9", to be honest about it. Guys pad their height all the time, but
Yeah.
he's got a ton of length. He's close to 240, so he has all the size that anyone would need to play at the center position. But he has a lot of the skills to play at the four. Or like a small ball type of five. He shot 37% from 3 point range
Really?
last season. Yeah, better than 80% at the free throw line, which is also always very encouraging. So you'd think it would be pretty reliable for him to at least be good from the 3 point line in the corner at the NBA. I also don't see any reason why he can't eventually shoot above the break. He can create his own shot. You can run the offense through a guy that has the skills that he has, either in the high post or kind of an extended baseline post. He's very comfortable and effective there. The downside with Wilson is he's not yet good at doing big man things, so he doesn't get the most out of his frame. He prefers to play with a lot of finesse, and he looks like he prefers to play more on the perimeter and hasn't really shown a willingness to bang. So if the Hawks are considering him, they would have to determine if they can get him kind of over that mental obstacle of not wanting to go down and kind of bang for boards, or go down and really kind of fight defensively on the interior. Kind of as a guy to compare, when I watch Jonathan Isaac play, that's the kid from Florida State who's projected to go in the top five. Isaac looks to me like a guy who was 6'11" but wishes he were just 6'5" because he just wants to go out and play on the wing. But with his
Yeah.
height, he's asked to do other things. And Wilson looks exactly like that to me as well. That he just wants to play on the wing. That's what he prefers to do. But in order for him to maximize what he offers physically, he's going to have to learn to offer rim protection. He's going to have to learn how to become a really engaged rebounder and all those sorts of things. Defensively, he can handle himself on the perimeter just fine, even when he gets switched on the guards. He can play in a high switch defensive scheme. And so when you look at a guy that kind of is big enough to play at the 4 and the 5 and has all of the skill to handle the ball, move the ball, create his own shot, all those sorts of things. DJ Wilson really physically has the whole package. He's not a very smart basketball player right now,
Oh.
um, but you get him into the right coaching environment, and if they feel like they can coach him up, then there's a lot to love about Wilson's game right now.
So do I have to worry about a Adrian Payne situation 2.0 with what you just said?
No, because in my mind, Payne was more of kind of a standstill shooter or a pick and pop kind of guy. DJ Wilson will actually like attack off the dribble, and he looks absolutely fine doing it. He looks like when he played AAU, he got like all the offense on his team. So he's perimeter shooter, attack off the dribble, can play with his back to the basket, play facing the basket with the ball in his hands. And we never really saw Payne demonstrate that he could play with the ball in his hands. DJ Wilson can play with the ball in his hands. The questions are around the other things you need from your big, like the rebounding and the rim protection.
Okay. Okay. Um. Hmm. Huh. These are some new names that I would not have expected. So I am loving this. This is why I bring you on the show, Glenn.
Well, hopefully I look smart Thursday night, and not dumb. But hey, you got to go on the record, and you deal with how it turns out. The third guy is probably not going to surprise you because there's been a lot of noise around the Hawks' interest in him, and that's Kyle Kuzma, the kid from Utah. Um, uh, Draft Express had him mocked to Hawks at the 31st pick until today, and now they have Tony Bradley, the center from North Carolina, mocked to the Hawks at 31, and they have Kuzma going to the Suns at 32. So they're still mocking him in the range of that 31st pick. I actually think there's going to be very little likelihood that Kuzma is going to be available at 31, despite where he's showing up in a lot of the mocks. And so if the Hawks want him, I think they're going to have to take him at 19, or either look to move up from the 31st spot to improve, get a little higher to take him. What's likable about him is that he can do just about everything. He's not going to play at the five the way Wilson would. He's a pure power forward. But you can run a ton of offense through Kuzma. He can be the big in the pick and roll. He can be the ball handler in the pick and roll. He can play the big or the wing type player in dribble handoff situations. He can play in the high post. He has a good face up game. He's really good in transition, whether he's leading the break or filling the wing and finishing at the rim. So he just has a ton of versatility. And for me, he's a legitimately, he's bigger than Paul Millsap. He's a legitimate power forward size guy that has a lot of ball skills. So he just had, when you look at the other players in this draft class that are as big as him and that can do the things that he can do with the ball, all the other guys are in the top 10, are projected to go in the top 10. And so I think the issue with Kuzma is that he was just mistake prone enough that it kind of obscured people from seeing all of the other things that he was kind of becoming really good at this past year. He's not quite ready to shoot from NBA 3-point range, but his shot looks clean. There's not any wasted motion. And so, in my mind, a professional shooting coach should be able to get him to be at least like a 35% shooter from three and a 75% shooter from the line. He was a sub 70% free throw shooter in college. I think that's a mental thing, and that he looks like he can be a real shooter. Defensively, he'll be able to defend like the 2 through the 4 positions. He's not going to be able to bang with a real center, but he does just need like better footwork and discipline, like most young defenders need. But I think he's going to be rotation ready probably halfway through his rookie season, kind of about the same point that Torian was kind of rotation ready this past season. I think he would be kind of on that same trajectory there by the All-Star breaker. So you're going to be you're going to see him as a guy that can handle 15 to 18 minutes off the bench each night.
Oh, okay.
So those are my top three in terms of guys that could realistically be available at 19 that I think makes sense. And we got a point guard, a center who wants to be a wing, and a power forward who's a power forward.
I like the power forward who wants to be a power forward sounding best, personally. But, I know nothing about the NBA draft. I probably watch combined one college game a year. So this is very helpful. So if you had.
I despise
college. Go ahead.
I despise college basketball, so I don't watch any of it until the season's over. But I DVR games and off them to a storage that I have, and then I can go back and watch film on basically anybody that played in college. So, but I have to watch it more like a scout would watch it. I can't sit through a college basketball game in real time.
It's tough for me as well, but I don't want to upset my college fan listeners, guys on here, especially the guys I'm going to have come on post draft.
Yeah, I'm not slandering any of those guys either. I know obviously college basketball is very popular, and so I'm the one that's different here. But I'm just putting it out there that I don't necessarily follow the season real time, but I completely understand that a lot of our pod and PTH brethren certainly do, and they're very, very good at talking about what they see.
You hear that, Red Rev? That's Glenn Willis. That's the guy you want to go talk to. I'm kidding. So, real quick. So let's move on. Well, we got through that kind of quick, and I got to hear everything I wanted. Okay. So,
excellent.
Out of the bunch, who would you say your favorite guy is? I know you said, but go ahead. Like, or
Uh,
excuse me, who is your favorite guy? Sorry for cutting you off.
it's all right.
And who would you take in 19?
So it's really hard for me to pick. If you ask me who's likely to be the best NBA player out of three, I'm going to say Joan Evans is likely to be that because it's so hard to find players that NBA coaches will trust with the basketball. And there is zero doubt that NBA coaches are going to trust Joan Evans with the basketball. If you ask me who has the highest ceiling is DJ Wilson because he's so freaking big and can handle the ball and has ball skills. If you ask me who's going to be more sure to fill the role that you have in mind for him, that might be Kuzma. And so for me, I would probably put Wilson first because I do think the Hawks need to take some risks and go for some outside. I think that Travis Schlenk is going to bring a little bit of a less conservative mindset to the draft than we've seen in maybe in recent years. But I also think that uh, Wilson's going to be a guy that gets drafted a lot higher than he's been kind of mocked before. So I guess Wilson would be my first choice. Evans would be my second choice, but I'd be absolutely fine to see them get Kuzma. So that's my preference. But each of again, Kuzma's probably a little bit safer, but Evans is probably going to be the best player. But Wilson has the chance to be kind of one of those guys that comes from the 19th pick to be an all-star if he can make the most of all of his physical tools.
Okay, well,
Was that a non-answer?
that was answered.
Okay, all right.
so, hmm. Now you select him, but just for reference, what's the guy's name that you're choosing, just so I can enter this next part very smoothly? You're choosing. You said
DJ Wilson.
DJ Wilson. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so who would you say the Hawks will? Do you think the Hawks will pick? Because shockingly, everybody, NBA war rooms, all NBA teams don't look at Draft Express. So everyone has a different top 20, top 30. So who do you think the Hawks will take, though?
I think it'll be Kyle Kuzma, and I'll be thrilled if they do. I'll be very happy if they do.
Okay. Okay. Now, I'm going to attempt to pronounce his name real quick. You said Kyle Kuzma?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to have to say Kyle Kuzma about 50 more times tonight. So, what does this mean if the Hawks take him? Do I have to be worried about a possible Hawks best player leaving Atlanta in free agency because of that?
I don't know that it changes the risk. I mean, Schlink's already said that we're not going to give him a 5-year max, and that he's already made noise that they're not going to offer him more money than any other team could offer him. But I don't think Kuzma is a guy that you take and you say he's our starting power forward from day one. I don't. If they lose Millsap, I think they'll bring back Ilyasova or find someone to kind of handle the position for a year or two as a starter. And I think that you wouldn't see the Hawks go in on a guy like Kuzma until like year 2 or 3. So I honestly think no matter who they take, my opinion, it doesn't impact Millsap's status with the Hawks at all.
Okay. Okay.
And I would also say regarding Kuzma, the last time we had a Kyle K on the team, we were all pretty happy about that.
Hey, you know what, Glenn? I'm sold. Kuzma is the guy I'm going for. Okay, so you think the Hawks will take him? We don't have to worry about. Hmm. You don't think that affects free agency in that sense? Well, no matter what the Hawks take, I'm going to be overreacting to whatever happens. But let's move on before we take a break. Who do you think the Hawks are going to take at number 31? Since that is basically it is the first pick of the second round. Who do you think the Hawks are going to take there?
Yeah, so I think if the Hawks think they could get Kuzma at 31, they would wait until then. But I just think there's such little likelihood that that's going to happen. So if they got Kuzma at 31 and could get like Wilson or Evans at 19, that would be an amazing draft. But some of the other guys I would look at, Tony Bradley, I'd be okay with that. He's the big center from North Carolina. He's not super quick, So you got to wonder if he's the kind of guy that might get played off the court in some matchups. He's kind of right on the edge there. He's athletic enough to kind of maybe think that that's not going to be the case and that he can play regular minutes every game. But Jordan Bell would be fantastic at 31 as well. That's the defensive monster from Oregon. Most people consider him like head and shoulders above anyone else as a defender in this class, but there's a lot of question about whether he's going to make it to 31 as well. I think Bradley will be available at 31, but it's just a matter of whether he'll be the best guy or not. But another guy I like is Wesley Iwundu as a college guard. He's mocked kind of in the mid 40s, but I think that depending on who else is available, I think the Hawks might like him enough to spend that 31st pick on him. He's got a ton of length. He can play on and off the ball. He has a 7'1" wingspan. And so there are times when you watch him play defense, it just reminds you a little bit of Tabo. He's really young and certainly not as disciplined and developed in terms of defensive skill set, but he is just rangy as heck and makes enough shots, does well enough handling the ball, can run a pick and roll. Needs to become a more confident shooter, probably, as
Yeah,
to not have NBA defenders go under every screen if he's running the pick and roll. But to me, he looks like a guy that can handle multiple defensive positions. And right now, if you look at the backcourt the Hawks have, if
makes sense.
with Schroeder and potentially Hardaway coming back,
Ugh.
the thing that they lack the most is defensive versatility, and Amundu would give them a ton of defensive versatility. So
I like him.
those,
Yeah.
those are the guys that jump out at me.
Okay. I like a little that guy. Yes. At least of the 5 minutes on Draft Express that I have seen of him, I really like him.
Yeah, it's
So
funny. I saw a lot of him when I was looking at Juwan Evans because they played in the same conference. It was kind of easy for me to get up to speed on Iwundu.
okay. Well, guys, we've I'm going to take a quick break. Glenn's going to take a quick break, but we'll be back in a few and we will go on to talk about more draft talk. We'll jump into my conspiracy corner and we'll answer some tweets. So we will be right back. All right, so I'm gonna grab something to drink real quick, but
I'm going to take 30 seconds. I'll be right back.
yeah, I'm looking at this. I'm trying to follow the news. I'm sorry, I've been trying to follow my Twitter and the news feed while you've been talking. So sorry if I seem so spacey.
It's fine. Take your time. I'll be back in a minute.
All right.
Ready when you are.
All right. Give me a second. I'm trying to go down the news that's coming in.
Take your time. I'm in no hurry.
There are, wow, it's very interesting. Um, there are a lot of people upset about this, and a lot of people, I don't know. I guess because they look at Plumlee. I'm just trying to get my thoughts together before we get to that because, um, okay, how much is Plumlee making? 12.5 million. That's not terrible. Um, I don't think that's terrible. Bellinelli 6. Okay, so and he's a free agent at the end of the year. So, um, I'll tell you right now, Glenn. Before I go into it, I thought they were just going to eat the Dwight Howard contract since it's 2 more years.
Yep.
But okay, this is kind of surprising to see this. Um,
Well, I said that exactly. I don't know. I think the last time we were on,
yeah,
a Twitter question came in about how realistic it was, and I had said I don't think it's very realistic, but here we are. Yeah. So Plumlee 3 more years. I thought for a second that Marvin was coming back.
yeah. So I wonder if this affects Muscala now, or it doesn't really. Um,
Well, it'll be
well,
interesting to see what the Hawks actually think of Plumlee. Uh, I don't. I don't think anyone sees him as like a starting quality center, but I also think that Muscala's not ready to start unless the Hawks are not prioritizing the number of wins they're going to go after this season. So yeah, I think there's a huge question about who's going to start at center.
yeah, and when you say Plumlee, I will say I've never seen him actually complain about his role before. So there's that. Um,
We should never complain about anything again after the Bucks decide to give him 12.5 a year. Dude can get up though. Dude has some serious vertical skills.
yeah, and I feel every team needs a Plumlee on their team.
Well, almost every team has a Plumlee on their team. If you mix the Zellers in, and then you really got a lot of the league covered.
Okay. Well, since I don't really have a straight thought on this right now, I'm just trying to think. So we're getting Plumlee for an extra year. So it's like 3 years of Plumlee over 2 years of Dwight. Which one would I have stomached? I guess Plumlee at least more is if you're looking to rebuild, if that makes sense. It doesn't really bother me as much, but I don't know. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah,
Still. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, it's fine. I just I have no idea if they're like if the Hawks think, oh, Plumlee can play, or if they're like, oh no, we're gonna like waive him. I mean, it's gonna be anywhere in between. I have no idea what they think of him. I don't even have a very good guess what they think of him. Bellinelli could shoot. They couldn't shoot last year, so you have that.
I don't think he's Bellinelli. I don't think is that good at anything else but shooting. But then
Right.
again, the one thing the Hawks need. Okay, all right. Or maybe Plumlee doesn't stay in Atlanta. Although the funny thing is, somebody wrote out. I'm reading. He didn't even. Dwight didn't even make it 365 days. He stopped at 353.
Oh, that was Brett's tweet, wasn't it? I think I saw
I
that
think.
one.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
Or as I think, Schlenk heard the comment of Dwight saying he's been practicing his 3-pointer this summer. That's
Yeah, he said that when he went on the jump, didn't he?
yeah, yeah.
Well, I don't know if you know, but Steve Clifford, the Hornets head coach, was an assistant coach at Orlando when Dwight was there.
Oh boy, I don't know what the Hornets are doing. Um, I okay, so before we start recording, does this help the Hornets in any way? Because um, I don't maybe the 31st pick, but I don't really see how this
Oh,
helps the
think
Hornets.
they think Dwight makes the better. I think they think that.
I guess I mean it gives them the size and stuff, but I
Well,
mean it
so
makes them.
Frank Kaminsky hasn't worked out at all. Zeller is pretty good, but he can't play starter minutes and stay healthy. He gets hurt every year if he tries to play starter minutes. So now they can use him in a smaller role instead in terms of workload, and I think they think Dwight can protect the rim, rebound, and all that sort of stuff. And I mean, to be fair, the Charlotte has more shooters than Atlanta has, and anyone who complained about calling Dwight the problem would point out the Hawks didn't put any shooters around him, and there's some validity to that. So, but I don't know. This doesn't make Charlotte a contender or anything like that. But so
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, it makes them decent, but I mean, you have Kemba Batum, Dwight, but I mean, I don't know what it gets them to the fifth seed, fifth, fourth seed. I don't know. Okay, all right, they'll be where the Hawks were. Okay, all
yeah,
right,
maybe they just swap spots. Who knows?
yeah, I don't see. Okay, all right. Um, so I'll probably be asking these exact questions when we get to that.
I'll roll with it.
Okay, where was I at on my notepad? Okay, let's go ahead and start it up. And guys, we are back. Man, I had a good break. We got some water. We got something to eat, and I'm back to talk Hawks. And Glenn magically has not run off from my annoying voice. Glenn, thank you for joining me and coming back to talk over my obsessive basketball team.
My pleasure. You are the entertaining voice on this podcast. Just tell yourself.
Oh, entertainment, but it needs brains as well. so
I'll,
so
I'll try. I'll try that department. I'll try.
try. Oh, we got nothing if you don't have it there. But all right. So moving on down my list. We talked about who we're going to take at number 31. We talked about who you liked. We talked about who we think the Hawks would like. A Kyle K, and I definitely approve of that. That is brilliant. That is low-key brilliant. And I'm going to make that joke for all of the next season if that goes through during the draft.
Well, hey, I got my fingers crossed it does, so we can have all the fun in the world with it.
Yeah, I am here for it. So something I've been wondering is, should we look at the draft and how much should we overlook or look at it too hard to see what does it mean for Paul Millsap if we sign like a power forward, if we sign a center or something? Does it mean that Dwight's gone? And same if we go get a guard. Does that mean we can just kiss Tim Hardaway Jr. gone? What? I want to overreact, and I love conspiracy. So,
Yeah. So I said before, I don't think I don't think it impacts Millsap status at all. I don't see a starting center in this draft. And so I don't see that impacting the Dwight outlook for the foreseeable future. But Tim is younger, and so he would be, I think, of the three, he could be most easily replaced by another young guy like a rookie, even though this draft class is very, very short on wings. But yeah, if they prioritize, like if, for example, if Luke Kennard fell down to them at 19 and they decided to take him or something like that, I think there could be some indication that they feel like they're not going to be able to afford Tim Hardaway Jr.
yeah, that's going to be something we look forward to. Man, yeah, just imagine if the Hawks took Luke Kennard. I wouldn't know what to think of Hardaway, a high volume shooter who better be hitting, and if he isn't,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, and Kennard has his defensive shortcomings as well, just like Timmy does sometimes.
yeah, and I mean, I know I've said it before, but I thought he was just a very, very poor compliment to our starting point guard for the future. Currently, uh, I was about to say Dennis Bazemore. I've made that mistake before in the past. Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder. I thought he was a bad compliment to Dennis, and I don't know if that's something you want to build around because Dennis, to me, has a very favorable contract. He is starting
Yeah, he
point guard
does.
material. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, he's a legitimate starting point guard. Hopefully, he can become league average and eventually maybe better than league average. But I think people know I've been a Hardaway fan as much as anyone kind of around the Hawks community. But on a good team, I see him as a third guard. I don't see him as a starting guard on a good team right now. Now maybe I'm a fan of the idea of giving him like a 2 year contract if he thinks he can earn starter money and giving him 2 years to demonstrate that he can become a more consistent shooter, he can become a more effective defender, but he hasn't shown enough yet for me to say that he can be my starting point guard. And especially next to Dennis, they're just too alike in terms of their defensive profile, and you just need somebody that has a different profile to play with Dennis. So I'd be fine with Hardaway coming back and being the first guard off the bench, but they need someone who has uh, more to offer on the defensive end of the court as to not get killed by. The teams are kind of really starting to invest in these two-headed monster backcourts. You see like Lillard and McCollum, you see John Wall and Bradley Bill, and so teams are no longer viewing the shooting guard position as a guy that's just going to stand in the corner off the ball and be able to, you know, create space for the rest of the team. They're expecting their two guards to be able to handle the ball, run a pick and roll, all those sorts of things. And so you've got to be able to defend both guard positions in this modern NBA, almost like they're both kind of point guards. And so
Yeah.
Dennis and Tim just don't have enough on ball, collectively don't have enough on ball point of attack defensive ability to play a lot of minutes together. But as a third guard, I'd be thrilled to view them as a starting backcourt for the next 4 years. I think that's a bad formula.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be rather interesting. All right. So let's go into my questions. All right. Where do I have saved? Going through my saved questions. Right. So, Sam, one of the all time great MVP listeners for this podcast, Sam J. Hodge, he asks me, what do we need to do to ensure that our young players will keep us afloat from tanking or tanking too long? What you think, Glenn?
I think Bud is kind of a tank proof coach. I think he's just enough good of a coach that he's going to get any team, any reasonably talented team at all, even if they're young and inexperienced but talented. I think he's going to get them close to 40 wins no matter what. So I think for now, the fact that they were able to hire a GM that didn't want to come in and bring in a different coach or want to displace Bud, I think Bud is all that we really need in order to kind of be tank proof. That's my view.
Um, Sam, I would answer this, but I believe we have some breaking news coming in on Twitter. I'm looking at my Twitter
What? Wait,
log.
no, we talked about the Lakers and Nets trade already. What are you talking about?
well, well, Glenn, I was trying to smoke signal this to you while we were talking earlier. Dwight Howard has been traded. It looks like I'm reading a tweet from Woj. Dwight Howard looks to be going to Charlotte. Going to be wearing the teal for Plumlee, Bellinelli, and our 31st pick.
Oh my god! Yeah, I'm seeing that now too.
Man,
NBA is becoming such a crazy place this week. I guess I should stop being surprised. And the Boston trade seemed crazy, and now there's Lakers, and that's still. But wow,
so wow, what? Wait, this can't be real. Hold on, let me pull up. All right, let me go to a legitimate Twitter site because I'm reading mentions. I'm getting mentioned. Okay, Mark Spears of the Undefeated. Windhurst mentions. Oh, this is real.
we
Sound
have
the
a
alarm.
quorum. We
This
have
is
a quorum.
hold on. Okay. Let me make sure. Let me make sure. Okay, so Bellinelli, one of the Plumleys. I was And we're getting their pick. I'm sure you're looking at this now. Do you know which pick we're getting?
I would think Charlotte had 41 based upon where they landed.
41. So we're
Yeah.
getting rid of the 31st pick. Okay. Um. Okay. Well, Glenn, I'm just going to delete everything that we've spoken for before now. Who do you pick for the 41st pick instead of third? No, I'm kidding. Um. You mentioned that some of your guys could possibly fall. Excuse me, fall to the 40s. So
Yeah, I don't think it changes that much. I think
okay.
the just draft pool between say 30 to 50 are pretty much kind of all on par with each other. And I, for example, think the Hawks would have kind of stretched to get their type of guy at 31. And so I don't really think it changes too much who they might be selecting with their second pick in this draft as it currently stands, if there's no more breaking news between now and Thursday.
Wow. Okay. So Dwight. Okay. So I'm sure the first thought that everyone's having is, what does this mean for Millsap?
I
Um.
I do think this makes it more likely that
Yeah.
Millsap comes back. Yep.
Yeah.
I could easily see a scenario where wrestler said, well, wrestler wouldn't be the problem.
Yeah.
Or Slank would say, the only way I think we should bring Paul back is if we move Dwight and to get wrestler to sign off on that, because they would have been totally capped out as a team that's at best a mid 40s winning team. And Schlenk has said you don't cap yourself out until you feel like you're ready to really go for it. But now opening up, what, 21, $22 million, maybe a little bit more with Dwight salary this year and the following year. That does create a scenario where they could bring Paul back and not be in a. I'm sorry, Slank said don't go to the tax until you're ready. But still, getting yourself capped out where you don't have any cap room for the next 2 to 3 years, which is what
Yeah.
they would have done if they brought Paul back. Now they have a little bit more flexibility. I don't know that it makes any more sense to bring Paul back, depending on how you're looking at this in terms of why spend on an older player. Let's get younger. There's certainly that's certainly a consideration. But if ownership wanted to prioritize to some degree on court product right now, with all the escalating ticket prices and all those sorts of things, then I think they're in a situation where it was an either or. You either have to move Dwight or Bazemore to create an opportunity to bring back Millsap. So I don't think this makes it a slam dunk that Millsap's coming back, because there's still questions about the team's timeline and building around a young core and those sorts of things. But I do think this creates the flexibility where if there were the desire to see Millsap retain, this makes it more realistic to me.
Ah, yes. Uh, I'm just right when we're talking Dwight Howard. Wow. Okay, well, the Dwight Howard era lasted less than a year. Reading a Hawks dog comment, he says, "I'm just glad that I will not have to tell my grandchildren what the Dwight Howard era was like."
Yeah, you have to be at least a year to be to qualify as an era, I believe. So we just came up. He just came up short of that.
So does this mean that there was an? This means that there was an Ivan Johnson era, right? Um,
Oh, I think there definitely was an Ivan Johnson era.
how about did Deshaun Stevenson only play with us for a year? Because I want
Oh
to talk
man.
about. I feel like the Deshaun Stevenson, that was an era, but okay.
Well, this does reunite Dwight with uh the lead assistant, I believe, for at least a portion of the time. Steve Clifford, the Charlotte's head coach, was on Van Gundy's coaching staff in Orlando when Dwight was there. So there's some history between Clifford and Dwight. So I'm surprised they found a landing spot, but
Yeah,
if I'm not surprised to which one it is now that we know that he's been moved, because Clifford, even I believe, like last year when the Hawks would play them, Clifford would always kind of go out of his way to praise Dwight to the Atlanta press, even, and so I'm recalling that now that we're kind of processing this massive news.
well, oh boy. Well, Schlink, Schlenk, two comments right now. One, I still think his last name sounds like the sound effect that Wolverine uses to unsheath his claws. I will not let that joke go. It's gold.
My wife
Gold.
my wife loves that joke, by the way. She's a huge Wolverine fan, and just watched Logan on her flight back here to Minnesota a couple days ago.
Oh, I loved Logan. I like your wife more now. We could talk about we need to kick you out of the way. We need to have a movie podcast. Me and
Oh,
her.
she could come on and talk to X Men for sure.
Oh man. Another pod, another day. But two, back to Schlink. Schlink was right about the bad contracts thing. Um I mean that just leaves Bazemore, who I guess you could say he was good within the system, but well, phrase that decent within the system. But uh, Dwight's gone. They picked up Miles Plumley. Miles Plumley making 12.5 mil a year, contract through 2020. Uh, Gets paid for a lot, a guy of his talent, but at the same time, he doesn't complain about his role.
And he's
Shots
got some
fired.
skill. He's got some
Yeah,
skill. I mean, he's overpaid. He's not good enough to deserve that, but the guy has a lot of verticality. He looks like he should be a good rim protector. He can play in the he looks pretty good on the pick and roll now and then, which of course the Hawks run a lot of that. But if you ask me like to immediately project what his role is going to be on this team next year, I have no idea. And I don't like admitting when I don't have no idea, but I have no idea what his role is going to be on the team next year.
yeah, and yeah, Bellinelli, not that good of a player. Very serviceable for San Antonio when they won that championship. Good 3-point shooter. And Glenn, do you know the one thing this team is missing? Desperately needs.
Perimeter shooting.
Oh yes. So there is that. Wow, I might actually have fun watching the Hawks next year. I mean, sorry, I don't mean to give away my thoughts on this, but I might actually have fun watching the Hawks next year. Again, with their group of scrappy players, which I'm used to watching. Oh boy, Glenn, what does this mean for Charlotte though? Why would they want Dwight Howard?
Well, I mean, they're a market that's never going to be, a strong candidate to go get free agents. Top 30, top 40 players in the league. And so I think they always have viewed themselves as having to be active on the trade market to bring in, difference makers. Of course, there's a lot of question around how much of a difference could a guy like Dwight made the way that basketball is played in the NBA right now. But he had a really good Dwight season last year, and
Yeah, true.
the fit was terrible, but he had a good Dwight season, and I do think that um, Charlotte has more shooting right now, and there was some criticism of the Hawks by some that getting Dwight but not surrounding him with more shooting was a bad decision. And Charlotte does have more shooters there to place around him. I guess they have one fewer now with Bellinelli, and but 2 years ago, Marvin Williams had a great shooting season. Nick Batum had a great shooting season last year. Kimba became a better perimeter shooter. And so I'm sure that Clifford thinks that Dwight can really help them, and I maybe he can. He's not going to turn them into a 50-win team, I don't think, but I think the main driver there, if you look at their roster construction, is the fact that sorry if I already mentioned this, but Zeller can't play starter minutes and stay healthy. Anytime he starts playing like starter's workload, he always ends up getting injured. And I think they like Zeller a lot, but he can't play 32 minutes a night across an 82-game season without getting hurt. And now they have a guy they can just kind of hand the center position over to, and who has a ton of history with their coach. But I don't think anyone's going to look at this and go, "Oh, Charlotte's a threat to Cleveland now." We're not even close.
Well, yeah, Charlotte probably just moved up to the 5th seed or the 4th seed after this.
What it's not like it's not like Charlotte's lived there. I mean, that's
Yeah.
something I think they'd be happy to accomplish. I do think
Yes.
I do think this makes them a realistic kind of mid seed in the Eastern Conference, and if that's a place they want to reach, I think that's absolutely fine. But it's not going to make them any better than that.
That's true. This kind of also spoils it for at least us because we've watched the Hawks in the playoffs for the past decade or so, and we're used to seeing the first round, second round knockout. So you have a team that comes in who's just been missing the playoffs in general. You're right. This is what they would want. So there,
Absolutely.
there you have it. But I'm here for, as I do my dance, put my arms up, celebration. Get it. Get this. And repeat after me from these words of genius that you were about to hear. Starting center Mike Muscala. Yeah, let that sink in. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for the season. Now, let me just say real quick. I don't think Dennis was a great fit with Dwight. Dennis really has one move when he has the ball, and that's come off a pick and roll at 100 miles an hour and go to the basket. Now, that can work for a lot of players if you have space, but Dwight, you could just sit right under the basket when it comes to him. Um, if he has a guy who has shooting talent outside of that, that might help him. That will help him because that extra step or two is definitely a difference. Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, it is, and it was very noticeable in the playoffs when Dwight was off the court. Dennis would kind of that's when he would kind of explode offensively, and could kind of get where he wanted to go on the court. But that takes you back to Mike Muscala starting center. Well, Muscala's a better fit with Dennis than Plumlee is because Plumlee doesn't have an outside shot, but Muscala's a great pick and roll center. I question whether Muscala could play 32 minutes a game, 82 games. I don't think he has quite a bulk to deal with that. But
Yeah,
it is gonna be interesting to see. Uh, Plumlee's 28, $12.5 million a year. Muscala's a restricted free agent, still very young. Struggles to kind of he needs help rebounding when he's in the game. He has to be paired with a front court player that can help with the rebounding. Plumlee's a pretty good rebounder. Plumlee has more rim presence than Muscala, so yeah, it's really weird to think about our centers being Miles Plumlee and Mike Muscala right now. That is really really weird. So
yeah. I'm just trying to get over this. This is a lot.
it's a lot.
This is a lot to handle. Which, man, I might need a whole other podcast for this. But we were just here to talk about the draft. Wow.
Right. Yeah, no. Which
Well then.
feels like a week. It feels like a week away now with all this news we have to process.
Well, guys, has been our draft pod. I'm hoping to come on with Patrick right after the draft to talk about the picks. Hoping he can join me, get some knowledge on whoever the Hawks will take when the draft comes. But everybody, thank you for listening. Glenn, do you have any closing thoughts you want to throw out there?
No, I look forward to hearing you and Patrick talk about the draft. Uh, Patrick has so much knowledge, and it's more organic than mine is. Mine takes study, where he just loves college basketball. So I love hearing talk about these guys. So I look forward to that next pod that you do with him, and I appreciate you having me on. It's always fun to talk and to catch up with you, Josh.
Hey, thank you, Glenn. All right, guys. Thank you for listening. And hey, yeah, we'll be back eventually. See you.